Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a different type of video. I am doing a report on the last fishing trip that I went on at Norfork Lake about 2 days ago. So let's just get right into it. Alright guys, so I'd like to start out by talking about the conditions that I fished in. We fished from about 7:45 all the way up to about 1 in the morning. It was a night bite, so we went out pretty late. The water temperature stayed in between the 87 to 89 temperature range. Outside, when we first got there at about 7:45, the air temperature was in the area of about 85 degrees. And then towards the end, it dropped down to about 79 degrees. Guys, when we fished last night, like I said, we fished from about 7:45 to 1 in the morning. The moon didn't come out till about 11:45. Actually, no, more like 11:15. And it was almost a full moon. It was a full moon last Thursday, and then we fished that Saturday night, so it was basically still a full moon. But yeah, it didn't come out till about 11:15. Alright guys, so now I'd like to talk about the locations that we fished. Obviously, like it says in the thumbnail, we fished at Norfork Lake, but we put in down at Panther Bay, and then we started off at the point that you can see right at Panther Bay if you've ever been down there. It's a runoff point. It runs out at a diagonal angle, and I started off throwing a gets it. So did my grandpa, and my dad threw a plastic worm. Didn't get any bites there, so we ran up to Tracy and fished our way back. Alright guys, so now I'd like to tell you about the places that actually produce fish. So the water depth that they were in was in the area of 20 to 35 feet of water. So they were kind of shallow. They're in that deep to shallow water range in the middle, kind of. And yeah, it was about 20 to 35 feet of water. What we caught them on the most was bluffs, throwing out there on the top of the bluff and then hopping it off and let it fall. But we also caught about 2 or 3 off of run out points, like I said earlier. Alright, so now guys, I'm going to tell you about the equipment that we used that produced fish for us. The rod that I was throwing was a 6'6" medium heavy casting rod. The rod that my dad was throwing was a 6'6" heavy casting rod, both Fenwicks. And I do not remember what my grandpa was using. I think it was in the area of 6'6" to 7 foot medium heavy is what I think I remember. The reels that I was using was a 711 loose speed spool. Great reel, really versatile. You can throw big baits, small baits, whatever you want to throw with it. That was a really good reel. That's what I was using. Alright guys, so we've gone over the rods, the reels. Now I'd like to show you what I caught them on personally. Okay, so what I caught most of my fish on was a 7-inch red with gold flake Jean LaRue style body worm. If you don't know what a Jean LaRue style is, here, I'll compare it to your standard Zoom U-tail worm. You see the Jean LaRue is a little shorter and it kind of has a hook on the end, and then this is your standard U-tail. So like I said, I mostly caught them on this red color, but another color that I had some success with was this blue color. Same exact thing, 7-inch Jean LaRue, but it was just this blue color. Like you would obviously expect, we Texas rigged them. What we found to be most successful was using a 3/16 ounce weight, because they liked that slower fall, because a lot of them hit it on the fall that we caught. So they liked the slower fall. And to finish out the gear, the hooks that I prefer to use when I'm Texas rigging a 7-inch worm like this is the Gamakatsu 3/0 offset hook. I don't like to use extra wide gap because I just feel like, why use that when you can do just as good or maybe better with just a simple offset? Alright guys, so now I'm going to go over the results of our fishing. We ended up with 3 keepers and 5 shorts, so 8 fish in total. However, the keepers that we caught were not big. They were probably barely on that keeper mark. My dad caught the biggest fish of the night. It was about 2-pound Kentucky or spotted bass, whatever you want to call it. I call it a Kentucky. However, I also caught about a 1 3/4 pound smallmouth. It was a decent smallmouth for the lake that we were at. And then I caught about a 1.5 pound largemouth. He was barely on that keeper mark. He was 15 exactly. And then the rest were shorts. They're just little dinkers. Alright guys, a quick thing that I'd like to go over is the way that I worked my worm to get the best results possible. This is very important. As you might expect, since the water was about 87 degrees, it was warmer, they were more active. So instead of just throwing it out there, dragging it and feeling up, I would drag it, and then at the very top, I would hop it a couple times and then keep my rod tip up for an extra 2 seconds and just feel if they would bite it and let it fall. That was what produced for me, but one thing that my dad did that caught him the same amount of fish as I did is he would throw it out there behind the boat and let it sink all the way down, and then he would just drag it like sideways, not upwards, just drag it along the bottom like this, not hopping it, not doing anything else, just dragging it. And he caught the biggest fish in the night doing that. So alright guys, to close out this video, I'm going to give you a couple of quick tips to catch fish at this time of the year at Norfork Lake that I found to be very successful. Tip number 1 is to work your bait all the way to the boat. I cannot stress this enough because probably 4 of our fish that we caught, so about half of our fish, were right at the boat. We dragged it, we were about to reel it up, and then pulled our bait down, and our rod went like that. Set the hook, we caught the fish. Tip number 2 is look at the water temperature. If it's warmer like it was for us in the 87 to 89 degree range, don't just drag your bait. Drag it, and at the very top, just hop it up and down, let it fall. And also, at the very top of when you're working it, keep your rod tip up for that extra half a second. It can really benefit because sometimes if you just hop it up there and let it fall, they can just nibble at it on the drop and you won't feel it, and then when you pull it back up again, they'll just be gone. So you won't be able to tell. So keep your rod tip up for that extra little time. It'll pay off a lot. You'll catch a lot more fish. And finally, tip number 1 is to be open-minded to what you throw, because a lot of times when we throw a gets it, we catch fish, and if we wouldn't have changed from a gets it to a plastic worm, we wouldn't have caught a single fish because we didn't catch a single fish on a gets it. Same thing like in the mornings. If you're throwing a frog and you're not catching any fish, don't just immediately switch to slow-moving bait. Try a soft plastic toad or something like that. So be open-minded.